and this is my podcast about my handmade life. You can find me on Instagram as Louleigh _ on Ravelry is Louleigh, and I have an Etsy shop where I sell knitting needle cases and notions cases at Shop Louleigh on Etsy, and you can find links to all of my online places at louleigh.com. Welcome. It's really nice to be sitting here and having a chat with you again. I'm just looking out the window here because the neighbour is hanging out her washing, and she has washed all of the stuffed animals in their house, and so these animals are being hung up along the line by their ears. I've just watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer go up, and they look all lovely and fresh, and I suspect they will smell all lovely and fresh out in the sun today. So yeah, it looks kind of funny out there. I'm also moving my arms around because I have my little co-host with me, of course, who doesn't sit here because he loves me or anything. He is looking out the window to make sure there are no cats in the garden. I still have my ironing board up. I'm still working on limited edition bags for the shop. They're coming early next month, so sign up for the newsletter if you'd like to see an advance notification for those. And I have also been having a little bit of a tidy up and a spring clean and autumn clean in my house, and I decided to have a little de-stash with some of my stash yarn. It's not that I don't love it, it's just that I may never get around to knitting it. So I have put together a little bucket of some fun things. There's some hedgerow yarns and some Eden Cottage, some Knitting Goddess, Madeline Tosh. There's all sorts of things in there. And I've popped those for sale into Ravelry. I'll link my trade and sale page below. Yeah, so it would be nice to not declutter, that sounds like I'm trying to palm them off on something. They're nice yarns and they just need to be rehomed. Because I have a lot of really nice yarns, so it would be nice to see some of those go off. They are for sale. I don't think there's anything over £10. Yeah, it'd be nice to see them go off to a home where they're going to be knitted. This is community news, and this week in the Louleigh Ravelry group, the magnificent Louleigh yoke-along has come to an end. I have finished my Guthrie cardigan, which I shall talk about in a little bit. However, there was a prize that I have given away in the chatter thread, and I drew that this morning, and it has gone to Panushka, who is Anna. I forgot to look out where you're from, and I have gifted you a copy of the Strange Brew book by Tin Can Knits, so I hope you enjoy that little prize. I had been knitting the Guthrie cardigan for my contribution to the yoke-along. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter, and I have knitted this with Ginger Twist Studios Sheepish DK and West Yorkshire Spinners Blueface Leicester DK, and I am hoping that if I shimmy over this way I'll be able to put a picture in the usual space of me prancing about in the back garden in my cardigan. I haven't put buttons on it yet. I'm hoping to find something. I couldn't find something locally, and so I'm hoping to find something really nice at Yarndale next weekend. I did have a bit of a panic with this cardigan because when I blocked it, there was some dye residue that came off the turquoise yarn, and there is nothing worse than popping your freshly finished colourwork cardigan in to have a bath and watching colour bloom around it. If anything is going to give you panicky feelings, it will be that. And I hadn't thought to wash the yarn before I used it, which was probably a rookie error. But anyway, There was a little bit of dye residue that came off. It has stopped coming off and it did not reapply itself to the ecru yarn. So that was a great relief to me. So yeah, that is finished. It smells really good and I'm really excited to wear it. We are having second summer at the moment, which is nice. And so it's a little too warm to have it on today. But as I say, hopefully I will be able to go and prance about in the garden and put some pictures in for you to see. This is an episode of Afterthoughts. There's already been a couple of little segments that I have remembered to record after after I would normally talk about them in the podcast. So I was prancing about in the garden and I realised that last time I spoke to you about this cardigan, the sleeves weren't attached, I hadn't steeked it. So I thought that I would come back and sit down and actually chat to you about those details. So I knitted the sleeves separately and then I grafted them on using Kitchener stitch afterwards. I had made a provisional cast on at the top of the sleeve and I had put the arm stitches on a piece of scrap yarn and then I just Kitchener stitched them together. I find it really easy to do that because it makes the sleeve more of a travel project. In this case I actually used the sleeves as a swatch, so that was really handy. On the steek I did a crocheted steek and I like the way this has turned out. It looks very, very neat, and so I kind of wish that I had used an ecru yarn for the steek. I used a lighter weight 4-ply yarn. This is a DK weight yarn that I used for the actual garment. And I think if I had used an ecru yarn, I think this would have just looked really elegant and neat and tidy. I've tacked it down a bit just with the yarn end at the top here, and I'm thinking that I'll actually eventually tack it down all the way along. I picked up for the button band and I used the smaller needle size in the end because I liked the way the fabric, the rib fabric, looked at that gauge. And I measured the gauge on the ribbing and measured the row gauge and then worked out how many stitches per rows I would need to pick up along this edge. I also asked some knowledgeable friends about their favourite button bands, and one of them suggested that I cast off with an I-cord, and I really like the way that that looks. I think that's come out really nicely. So yes, I am very excited to pop off to Yarndale. I'm kind of hoping it'll be cool enough for me to wear this and to find some lovely buttons with it. If you're going to Yarndale and you see me, I would love it if you would say hello and introduce yourself. That would be, yeah, really sweet. So yes, this is Lee from the ever so slight future, going back to Lee from half an hour ago. This is also my first contribution to Knit 1000 grams, and I am so excited that so many of you are rejoining that knit along this year or joining for the first time. It's great to hear about all of your goals and to see the things that you're finishing already. The finished objects thread for that knit along is always really inspiring for me. So whips count. As far as I'm concerned, anything that is still in progress and is not completely finished, in my house it's still in grave danger of being unravelled, so it's still stash. So I am counting, it has to have been a whip before the 1st of September, so that's in stash before the 1st of September. I think that was the rule I made up this year. yeah, so this is the first 640 grams towards my Knit 1000 grams goal, and I think that usually I sort of plod away at things and then have a flurry of finishing glory nearer the end. So I'm quite pleased to have started on quite a big chunk of my kilo. I usually only just make it to a kilo and a little over. I think I often knit things in 4-ply and lighter weight yarns. So 1000 grams is a stretch goal for me, whereas I know some of you knit in thicker yarns and some of you knit like the wind and manage to get through kilos of your stash. So it's always fun to hear about your goals and what you hope to achieve. Yeah, and just to knit along with you. If you are wanting to have a bit of a whip down and to do some stash appreciation, then come and join us in that knit along. Weaving and crochet counts. Anything you make with your yarn counts. A Dorset button would count if you make that with your yarn. So yeah, come and join us. It runs until the end of March and it would be wonderful to have you there. Today I'm wearing my Exploration Station, which is a pattern by Stephen West, and a scalp tee that I made out of some second-hand shirts. For my next project for Knit 1000 grams, I have decided to go on a classic cardigan caper. I think I've been talking to you about making a classic cardigan for about 2 years. So I thought it was time that I just used some of my stash and got on with that. So at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year, I saw, I'm just rustling the pattern, I'll put a pattern picture in here, just move over a bit. So I came across the Allium cardigan, and that is by Renee Callahan. And I really liked the styling of it. It reminds me a little of a slightly more casual version of a Chanel jacket, and I liked the set-in sleeve, and yeah, I thought it was just a very smart cardigan. So I decided to cast one on, and I am, if I hold up this very crumpled thing, I am up to the armpits there, if you can tell, and now just need to knit straight on to the hem. So I'm using a Blacker Ryland yarn that a very talented friend overdyed with for me in this lovely sort of light terracotta-y colour, which I'm really enjoying. I'm loving knitting this up. The Ryland in the ball is actually quite a crisp, bouncy yarn. It's not one that I would wear next to my skin. Even I've swatched with it and washed the swatch, so here we go. And the prickle factor for me is too great for me to wear this next to my neck, or probably even on my forehead as well. Blacker yarns tend to come up a little on the thick side, and so I didn't get gauge for this cardigan. I think I got a slightly bigger gauge, so I've had to recalculate some of the pattern elements because of the larger gauge that I got. However, I thought I was going to crank this out. It's a DK weight cardigan. However, I am using probably a needle that is a little bit thinner than I would normally use with a DK yarn, and the fabric is, before it's been washed, is quite robust and doesn't have a lot of drape, and so I'm actually finding this a little bit hard on my hands. I'm going to crack on with it because I still want the cardigan at that gauge, but I'm just going to be kind with myself and pace myself with it, so that, you know, take regular breaks and don't knit for hours and hours on end on it. So it might take me a little longer than I had first anticipated. The other thing is that this cardigan has a really nice garter stitch detail down the side and doesn't have any waist shaping. And I think I'm a waist shaping sort of person. I think it just looks neat and slightly tailored. So I've just decided to put a little bit of waist shaping in at the back and then leave the front straight so that there's room for a roast dinner. Yeah, I'm really pleased with my progress on that, and I hope to have it in my wardrobe really soon. This is the spinning segment. About a month ago I sold my single treadle Woolmakers Bliss spinning wheel. Not because I wasn't completely in love with it and didn't enjoy it as a spinning wheel, it's just that I have 2 spinning wheels and I hadn't been spinning a lot, and we have a house that is only 50 square meters, and so I found myself tripping over it rather than spinning on it. And it just seemed like a waste of space to have it sitting here in the factory gathering dust. So I sold it to a lovely friend who has been giving it a lot of love, and it's been really inspiring to me to chat with her and share experiences. And yeah, selling my spinning wheel has actually made me more enthusiastic about using my other spinning wheel, which is a really lovely Major Craft little gem, which I really enjoy. Yeah, I really like both of those wheels, but the little gem is definitely my favourite, and I know that if I want to do anything really specialist later on, I can get accessories for it. My little hairy chum is insisting on joining me today. Usually I can do the introduction and then get away with putting him back on the couch, but he's not having a bar of that. So anyway, at about the same time that I sold my Bliss spinning wheel, I noticed a very intriguing gadget on the internet, and I ordered myself an electric eel wheel Nano. Yeah, so I purchased this. I didn't purchase this with the Kickstarter. I pre-ordered it in early August, and it took, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks to arrive, and I have been saving it up. This is the week of my birthday, so this is a birthday present, so I've been saving it up to open. So I opened this yesterday, and I have to say I am completely underwhelmed with it. It came already set up, which is really exciting, and it is pretty easy to use. The power adapter for it is for the US, however I borrowed a battery bank from the Hairy Man, and I got the deluxe kit that came with a special USB cord, and so I've been using that to power it. So it's easy to set up and it's easy to use. However, I found with my other wheels, with my Woolmakers Bliss and with my Major Craft little gem, that it's really easy for me to set the speed and the tension, so the uptake of the yarn, so that it works really comfortably with my body and the speed that my hands move at. There's kind of a sweet spot, I find, and if I want to make a thicker yarn, I'll increase the uptake of the yarn a little and decrease the speed so it's not super high twist, and then I don't have to adjust my body all that much. However, I'm having trouble finding that sweet spot with this. Yeah, I've found that with the tension band, if I want to increase the uptake, it also slows down the flyer, and when I've got the tension band on quite loosely, I'm having to work in a way for me that feels like slow motion. And I want to make a super fine yarn when I work at that pace, like cobweb weight. But the wheel doesn't spin at a fast enough rate to get enough twist into a super fine yarn for that to hold together. So I'm just not finding that sweet spot with this. However, I did make a yarn yesterday, despite that limitation, that I'm really happy with, that looks to me really good. So I'll just zoom in here. So this is the yarn that I was working on yesterday. You can see that I've made a little twist sample of a 2-ply and a 3-ply there, and to me that looks like a lovely knitting yarn. I was using a bit of Shetland top, but as I say, because it's not working in a way that sort of is in synergy with my body, I'm not sure how consistent I would be able to keep my yarn. So that's really interesting. At the moment I have this set on the lightest take up I possibly can and on the fastest speed I possibly can, and I still feel like that's slow, and I'm having to draft in a way for that speed that feels quite thick to me. So I think that, as I say, I've only played with this for 2 or 3 hours so far, so I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve maybe, and also I've seen that a lot of people have made modifications to this wheel. So I'm excited to have some adventures and to see if I can make some tweaks that will make it more usable for me. At the moment, if I had to go on with this as it is, I'm not sure it would be a pleasure. I've seen that a lot of people have changed the break band on the bobbin. It's Scotch tension, and so I thought that would be the next thing that I would try. I've also seen, this is a moulded plastic spinning wheel, and I've seen that a lot of people have filed off some of the excess plastic from the moulding along the flyer so that there's less friction there and around the bobbins. So those are the 2 things that I'm going to try off the bat, just to see if that does make a significant difference for me. I'm actually really excited too, because the hairy man is due home any time now, whenever they free him from his boat in the North Sea. And he is an engineer, and he's also an enthusiastic maker of model aeroplanes, both airfix and remote control aeroplanes. And I find that with spinning wheels there seems to be a crossover in his skill set that has helped me resolve some problems in the past. He knows a lot about small motors and about moulded plastic. And so I'm kind of excited for him to come home and to see what he thinks might enhance my little wheel for me. So like I say, out of the box I'm underwhelmed, but I'm still hopeful. We'll see. Yeah, maybe next time I'll be able to report something a little different, but I shall keep you up to date with any modifications that I do make, and yeah, see how I get on with it. So that is all from me for today. It's been really nice to come and have a little chat with you, and I always think that the podcast, I know it's a nice small one, a nice short one, I know some people like to fit this into their lunch break, so yeah, I always like to think of this as the beginning of a conversation with you, and I love to hear your feedback in the comments below or over in the Ravelry group. Come and join us there, come and join in the community at the chat over there. It would be lovely to meet you. I think my focus for until the next episode will be on my electric eel wheel Nano modifications on my allium cardigan, and there was something else. I'm trying to think what it was. And my fractal spin. I have nearly finished the singles for my fractal spin, and so hopefully I'll be able to get it applied by the time I see you next time. It's been really nice to sit down and have a chat with you, and give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed yourself. Cheerio!